Just like that, guys, coming off last week's fantastic Westworld episode, we have another one this week, Season 3, Episode 5. I was really hoping it would continue the momentum that the last few weeks have been really building up, and it definitely did. Oh my god, I love this episode. I'm really curious to hear where your guys' thoughts are, so if you guys are new here, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, where it's that way you guys can get all this Westworld content every single week, where we discuss Westworld like you're just right in front of me. We're having a nice little discussion also down below in the comments, so make sure to leave your comments down below. Let me know your theories. What did you guys think of this week? I'm really excited. I love this episode. I hope you did as well. Wow, what a great pick off of last episode. I still think last week's was still my favorite episode of the season so far, but this was a great moving forward of the story, especially with the ways that they really focused in on certain characters. And doing with these reviews, it's a little bit easier to really talk about each character individually and their kind of groups that they're sectioned in. That's kind of the best way to talk about Westworld, because Westworld can be a pretty confusing show. And I'm glad that this season's editing has actually made it quite not confusing. They've actually, faster paced the story. And in general, the editing makes it less confusing. You're still having questions, but it's actually more not as convoluted. And I'm really loving that, because it still makes you think, but it actually makes it easier to follow. And I don't know, I just love what they're doing with the season overall. And even though the first 3 episodes I was kind of all right, let's get to it, I'm loving this, but I need to see where it's going. And last week's episode really hit it, and then this week's episode certainly did. I want to start with, of course, the big baddie for this season, the guy who thinks he's the god. We get a lot of background history on Sirach this week. And, obviously, no Maeve this week. She has to be coming back in some capacity. No Charlotte Hale either. In general, no Man in Black either. Very curious to see how, again, they're all going to tie into this season. Last week really ended on a big bomb dropping on all those scenarios of when we found out about what our great Dolores has been doing. But Sirach, we got to actually know a little bit more about him. Now, I got a little bit worried when this episode started. I was like, dear God, please don't tell me this is just an episode about Sirach. This would very much slow down the pacing. I think it's something that we need to know a little bit more about him, so he's not just this one-dimensional villain. And we get a little bit more. We got a little bit of him when he was talking to Maeve in the last week's episode, and especially when he just shot the guy. But this one, we get to know a lot about his present, about his past, about his, the future of what he wants. And it's very interesting, to say the least. The whole relationship with his brother and their older boss, and especially when it gets and builds up to that last final moment when he just kills the guy, just smashes his head in. I was like, oh my God, that's a moment. But, Sirach's becoming a very, very interesting villain, to say the least. He's very complex, and I'm loving what they're doing, the way that they're building him up slowly. And man, I can't wait to see what happens to him, especially with his last interaction between him and Dolores at the end of this episode was just great. The dialogue going off one another is superb, and I think that's something that Westworld's always been great at, is keeping up that dialogue to just a next level type stuff. But we do move in, and let's talk about our next pairing, of course. The next smaller pairing, of course, was Bernard and our great security guard that is also Dolores. Not much in this whole insanity, of course. Dolores gets some nice one-liners with Bernard, kind of just hold little conversation that they're having here. Takes the button, clicks it, saying pretty much, hey, I hope this Bernard is a little bit more willing. Whole thing kind of comes out. I thought it was a little bit silly though when Stubbs kind of came in and just took the gun and they kind of beat him up, but it kind of worked for the whole purpose of this. It's very interesting to see how Bernard is trying to pretty much play this Dolores, because he knows there's a good spot in Dolores and trying to hey, let's turn to our side. Let's get out of this. Obviously that didn't happen. Stubbs and Bernard got away. Then Sirach's people came in, and yeah, Dolores blew herself up and killed them. Yeah, it sucks Palm died. I really like her as an actress. Kind of sucks that she died so early, but still, she's dead. They all died. That version of Dolores is dead now. I think we have 3 versions left out there. We have the real Dolores, we have the Charlotte Hale version. I almost flipped out the camera. And, of course, we have the Yakuza member one as well. But, of course, that kind of storyline ended. Really, a lot of the storyline really came out to be with Dolores, Caleb, of course, Dempsey, and the 2 little helpers that are Caleb's friends. And this is really where the episode was quite interesting, and also one of the most unique things about this, and really why I think this episode was freaking awesome was the episode's called Genres, and I was wondering, why is it called Genres? Well, as it plays out, you definitely see, Dempsey tries to pull up one another on Caleb and Dolores. That does not happen, but it does drug out Caleb into this weird scenario where his mind and his body is going through different genres, which really fit for the show, and I feel like Jonathan and Lisa Joy really got to play a lot in this field, especially with this whole development, the way that they were playing around with the genres, the music, the tones, the way that it all clashed together. And when it hit that Shining one, I went, oh God, I love this right now. God, yes, I love when they can kind of intersect that in there, and it really worked, especially for the back half of this episode as the tone started really shifting into that horrific moment of when Dolores pulls the key punch and sends out this whole database to every single person in the world of what is going to happen to them, just like how she did with Caleb. And we'll get to that in a second, but again, playing with the genres, it really established more of Aaron Paul and how much I love him as Caleb, and what he's been able to do with this character is just quite fascinating, and he plays off this in such a subtle but a great way, especially as the music genres are playing and the tone starts shifting, but it fits so well in this episode, and it was quite hilarious as well. Like, this is their kind of humor, but it also worked, and again, fit well. Like, that's what was surprising, was that the music fit to each and every one of those scenes, and you can understand where the genre is. And I mean, I got giddy when he started also getting that love music as well, when he sees Dolores just shooting out the people. Really good moments in that whole entirety, but again, made it to be one of the most unique things, and that's why I also love Westworld, is because of how unique it is to the scenarios. And while I might say this, I think this season is starting to shape up to be my favorite Westworld season, which is really phenomenal to say the least, because I really like the first season, love the second season, and this season is really getting up to that peak of like what I think the show really could be and should be, and it's right there right now. So, but in general, that genre stuff was really fun to play around in, and the way that it actually fit inside the episode also worked. It was also nice seeing his friends back. I really like the actors and actresses that they have for those. Of course, it's freaking like a football player and a great actress in Lee. I don't remember her full name, but she's a fantastic actress and really a great writer as well. I got to see one of her films at Sundance, but that's another point. But talking about also with Dolores and her whole thing, sending that out, that really changed a lot. And that moment when they're on the subway and everyone's getting the text messages, seeing everyone's reactions was quite the unique aspect of that. And I think one of the things that really hit me is when the mother sees about the daughter. And that actually kind of brought me to tears. It's a little bit of a sensitive subject to me, and in general to certain things that have happened in my life and people that I know, and it kind of almost got me into tears in there. But as they're walking out and you see everyone just going crazy, the main thing that it took me back to was, this is a parallel to Westworld. This is a straight up parallel to what was going on in Dolores' world when she was growing up. And everyone's so freaked out about it, but she's so calm about it, because this is what humans are. This is what humans are when they find out this stuff and when they can control their own destiny. And I thought that was very smart, the way that they actually played that off. I don't know if that was on purpose, but I have to imagine it was. And it was honestly really brilliant, the way that they actually had those parallels set in stone. Obviously, Caleb's not happy with this. We see that at the end of this episode. I'm very curious to see how they kind of tinker that back together and see where that kind of goes. Especially with Caleb also seeing that the bullets go through her, and he doesn't know what she is, and that's interesting. It's going to be a cool dynamic, again, to see where that kind of takes place next week's episode. I haven't seen the preview. I don't really want to see the preview. I'm just curious and where every single thing is going. But every single thing, again, is a moving chess piece. Game of chess really playing out now. That's just going faster and faster. And it's really playing out to a very intense way. Now, before I give you guys my final thoughts on this Westworld Season 3, Episode 5 review, make sure to comment down below. Let me know your guys' thoughts, your theories, everything you guys want to discuss Westworld. I love reading through those. I love discussing it with you guys, so make sure to comment down below there as well. Hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss out on Westworld content. And if you guys are interested, I will be on a podcast called Into the Westworld, which you can find in the link below. We go in a little bit more depth into Westworld and discussing it in a whole entire group. As well, guys, thank you guys again so much for watching this, and a big thank you to you, and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. So overall, this Westworld episode was great. It was a great takeoff from last week's episode. It's probably my second favorite episode of this season, because last week's was just phenomenal in the way they had that ball drop. This was a good one, though. We didn't get a lot more from any other character. A lot of it really focused on Dolores and Caleb. and playing around with that genre and kind of moving the story a little bit more focused, not really adding too many different elements besides the Sirach, and kind of coming to understand him more as a villain. That was great, but truly my favorite thing about this was when Dolores finally started her plan and the parallels of Westworld to our world really started to come out, especially from that first season of Westworld, was absolutely phenomenal. The way that they were able to play out the genre shifting within the mood of Caleb really fit for this episode, which in other shows it wouldn't have, but it did in this one, to a very precise and cohesive way. I'm very much satisfied with this so far, so I'm just excited. I can't wait for next week, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are the same. I can't wait to discuss and think and really read your guys' thoughts. But of course, guys, have a happy Easter. Stay safe, stay quarantined, and until next time, stay classy. And did anyone else see the one guy with the mask when they got off the subway? That was like the one thing I noticed. I was like, why is he wearing a mask? Does he know about the coronavirus? Anyways, guys, thank you guys again.